my name is Rocío, which you know.
Yeah.
And I write poetry mostly.
Okay.
So I'm from LA. I was born and raised here. I got all my education here, public school and then public college. And then I got a master's degree at like an art school in writing. And now I've been teaching for about 20 years, K through 12, and then higher ed as well. That's me.
My name is Ramy, as you know. I actually, theater is my first love. So I call myself a writer, performer, storyteller, because live performance and live sort of storytelling is sort of what I think I am the best at. But I also do write poetry, and I do sort of write personal essay or whatever. I'm born and raised in LA, like you, and I ended up getting a master's and MA in applied theater in New York. I went to the CUNY School of Professional Studies. So I've lived in LA my whole life, minus the 2 years I was in grad school. As soon as I was done, I came right back. I love LA. I missed it. I actually didn't want to leave LA to go to New York, even though I'm very grateful for my time in New York. I just really missed LA, and this is where I belong, you know.
So, Ramy, you're a multidisciplinary artist, truly, utilizing theater, storytelling, poetry. You're an educator and an advocate. And one of the themes in your work that I'm really drawn to is tenderness.
Okay.
As an emotion and as a way of expression. And a lot of our work has, if not a mandate, it's a natural gesture in a lot of our work. I think that we have in common like visibility, justice, humanity, advocacy. But one of the things that I've noticed a lot is tenderness, which it may not be what's expected of us as artists.
Right.
Like, because people, they expect a sort of like preservation of a moment or of a voice. And certainly like rage is always part of it and survival and stuff. But I think tenderness sort of, like people don't think that we have it in us to be tender after everything that we survive or all the things that we have to like speak against or whatever. Right. But it's there. And especially like in spaces where like gender expression is policed or like a narrow set of emotions, right? Or even like projections of like racial stereotypes, right? So I know, the idea of like a passionate, spicy Latina like has been projected on me, or like it's even seen as dangerous when I enunciate or I speak a certain way. Suddenly like the way I look and the way I speak is like a violence waiting to happen. So I think that tenderness is surprising to people, but it's there. And I want to hear about like how that happens in your work, or if that's intentional.
How it shows up?
Yeah.
Thank you for that question. I didn't expect that one. My tenderness, I think, thank you for recognizing that. I think for me, a lot of times based on just how my appearance, based on how people perceive me, they don't expect me to be soft, or they don't expect me to be tender. They don't even expect me to be super kind. I think maybe I'm a tall person, larger guy. I think people naturally, when they first see me, they might be intimidated just by my like stature. And then as soon as I start to speak, and I tend to think I'm pretty soft-spoken, and articulate, and I'm also like pretty like deep, I'm a Pisces, so
I'm a Cancer.
You're a Cancer,
sign.
yeah, water signs, right? And so there's like a tenderness to water signs, a kind of a deep, pensive contemplation around the world, and it's sort of holding things with respect and sacredness. I think water signs in general tend to be really kind of in like vibration with the universe, like they just sort of like are intuitively just follow what's going on. And I think for me, I never try to like put on any persona. I never try to, make something there that isn't there. I kind of just name what I see. And I think that's how the tenderness shows up, because I see like a lot of, pain and beauty at the same time. And I see a lot of, joy and sorrow at the same time. And we have to have enough container to hold it all. I notice sometimes the world might be too focused on the pain and the sorrow and unable to connect to the beauty in the world, or vice versa. Some people are like, toxically positive, and they only want to see the beauty and only want to see the joy, and they don't have the capacity to acknowledge any of the darkness or any of the ugliness. And I think for me in my work, I just try to be real, and to show that there's like complexity to all of our experiences. And like, even as like brown people, as a queer person, as a queer person of faith, these are all complex identities that do coexist in one body. I think the world tends to, try to like marginalize us and categorize us and just sort of reduce us, to only being one or two things, when we are like 1 or 2 million things, all at once. It's a very heady conversation. I don't know. I think the tenderness is really important. I think I'm not a fiery, I don't see myself as someone who is fiery or who is revolutionary. If I am, like, if my work does sort of aim for any justice, the justice is in being your authentic self and not letting the world, put you in a box or place labels upon you. I think we need to hold our full integrated selves, and to do that is requires a lot of tenderness. I think it requires a lot of patience. It requires expansion. It requires breath. It requires us to truly be open to everything that's out there, and not just the things we want to acknowledge. There are things there are truths there that need to be acknowledged whether you want to or not. And I just feel it's, there. And anything else?
No, I just think it's really interesting that you said that you are not necessarily, by definition, a revolutionary, but our existence is radical.
Right.
Like Audre Lorde, we weren't meant to survive, right? Mm-hmm. For whatever reasons.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Existing.
That's true. And I think again, the more we kind of hold each other, and the more we kind of like, give each other the space to be their full authentic selves, that is what will allow us to survive. We will survive because, we were given the freedom to be ourselves. So your social media handle is Nina Bruja, mm-hmm. right? And I know that bruja in Spanish means like witch, mm-hmm. right? And I was curious if you wanted to speak more about kind of whether like brujeria shows up in your work, and if it, like, how it does, or why you sort of why you call yourself that, at least even on social media, and is there more of a story to any identity as being a bruja?
Back in the early days of internet, when like people were calling themselves like their favorite Muppet and a number whatever, okay. at like Earthlink or Hotmail, I chose Niña Bruja, which was a character from a YA LA fiction called Witzibat from the late 80s. And her name was Witch Baby, and one of the characters also called Niña Bruja. Because of coding and racism, there was no place to put the tilde, so it's Nina Bruja now. Okay, yeah. So I had always liked that because with a lot of easefulness, the idea of like religious syncretism syncretism existed in my entire life, mostly through just the teachings and traditions passed on to me by my mother and her side of the family. And then I came to realize that a lot of that stuff it's very easeful. It does not seem like it chafes against each other to have like, this idea of a monotheistic colonizing religion and then like our folk practices. Like somehow it's just so threaded together that we don't even like for one of my grandmothers, it would be very, very easy for her to do something that would be considered maybe unorthodox, like church-wise, and then be like, and now let's go to mass. Like they did not contradict each other at all. They existed in the same space all the time. And we joke about brujeria as if it's something separate, but it's very threaded, just like mindfulness for like energy in the world and little things you do every day that people without a discerning eye wouldn't see what you're doing, but you're just doing things like securing energy in your space, being like having an idea of a cleansing ritual. That part of it is very easy for me to embody, right? Brujeria, and then so doing rituals and then being conscious of what it is and passing it on and speaking about it so that it doesn't seem like something foreign or different. I forgot the rest of the questions, but so basically, yes, I grew up that way and I continue to be that way. And
does
in my
it
work,
show up in your work?
right? Yeah, I feel like my work, a lot of it has to do with orientation. Like I think of my portrait in particular as a kind of like an exercise in cartography of like, because there was never any kind of, at least for me and people that I've spoken with about this, like there's no map of how to be a person when you're not even supposed to exist. There's no future. Like when I was a young person and I would be like, where are all the like queer like adults? Like, does nobody live past a certain age? You just fall off a cliff? Because I couldn't see any models anywhere of even healthy relationships, people who like live to tell the tale, people who were able to get jobs, like, and like thrive and make community and make art. There was just, I couldn't see any in my very young, very like aware of my queerness life. So I was always trying to like, almost like, you know how like in the old stories, they would like leave little breadcrumbs in the forest to find their way home. I was like doing that in reverse. I was trying to find my way anywhere. And a lot of that was sort of in a very haunted way, like thinking about things that are not out in the open, stories that are partial truths or that reveal some like tip of the iceberg family history, but not all of it. A lot of dead people, a lot of ghosts that never were people, and a lot of, because this information in the wrong hands like runs away with itself, a lot of communion with nature, but in a non-woo-woo kind of way, just like in a very matter of fact, you live here and this is the place where you live and these are the plants that are here and this is the soil that is here and this is the ecological system, and being conscious of it and being a steward of it also, which I think is, to me, the role of the bruja is very much a stewardship of energies. Like I take care of my energy so that when I enter a space, I'm not impacting it in the wrong way, and I try to keep my spaces that I tend to and am a steward of, I have to make sure to keep them also have a lot of flow, because you don't want stuff to get stuck. So it's a lot of sweeping. Literally, it's the ritual of sweeping constantly in the morning, in the afternoon, evening, the corners, and then like doing things to dissipate,
You do that?
Yes.
Okay.
In my home.
Yeah, and you do that before you like write?
I try to do that first thing, even before, I'm usually the first one in my home to be up, but I try to do that even before other people are up.
Okay.
Or like I try to do it by myself when I'm alone. But I don't think it's necessary for writing, because sometimes it'll just be like at a bar, I'd be like, oh no, a poem. And I talk about, I say oh no because somebody asked me once about inspiration. I'm like, no, it feels like inflammation. Like you're getting like, oh, here it comes. Oh no, I'm about to have a poem.
And you follow that, and you follow that inflammation like in that moment. Like if you're at a bar, you're gonna pull out your phone and put.
Sometimes I'll like, yeah, my phone is full of like little weird orphan like phrases that I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Sometimes they never become anything, but I'm like, I gotta write this down right now. Or I have to, or I'll turn it over in my mind over and over and over. And sometimes that's all I needed, and it'll like leave my body. And sometimes I'll like I'll carry it with me, and then I'll put it somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm not sacred and precious about when or how I write poetry, because sometimes you're just driving and you're like, God damn it.
I think in many ways poetry, or really any art making, just to sort of like, affirm what you're saying, I feel like even if people sort of like don't kind of like identify with any sort of like, spirituality, I believe art making is probably the most spiritual thing someone can do, right? Creating beauty out of like, nothing, creating something that wasn't there, that's magic, right? And that's, in a certain way, you could call it, brujeria, you could call it the occult, you could call it, God, or whatever it is. But to be an artist is, to be a bit of a witch, a magician. I think so,
So what are some like points of human connection that you're looking forward to if we all survive?
If we all survive. Points of human connection. Wow. I will say something. This is gonna not the I feel like in the last couple of years I've dissipated too much energy on finding like certain types of connections, whether it's like romantic or whatever. And because I keep running into hurdles, and hurdles that seem to not be coming from me. It's like the universe keeps like offering these roadblocks. I feel like I've, put too much, maybe I've like I said, dissipated too much energy there. So something I am looking forward to is connecting with myself more and not seeking external points of connection. Definitely is not an answer to that question, but I will say I feel like going internal is probably the right thing to do. Befriending myself. What about you?
I was really excited to come here and be with people.
Yeah, that's true. See people
from the face, like lower half of their faces. So I think I'm part of, I think my responsibility as a poet, and I think it goes both ways, right? People picture us like working under candlelight, in the storm or whatever. But I think that a lot of my poetic practice has been to be in community with each other and witness each other, and to be in places together. And I miss that. And I'm willing to wait if it's what's best for everybody. But like, I can't wait to go to Tuesday Night Cafe again.
Yeah.
I can't wait to like, to hug my friends.
Right. Right. Things are happening though. Yeah. I went to a show the other night and had friends there. So it felt like people are gathering again, masked, but we have survived, and we're going to survive, and we will adapt.
Inshallah.